Hello? 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 If you can hear this, it's not too late. I've returned to warn you. This is Time Pop, a podcast that discusses time travel and pop culture. There are spoilers. I've seen the future, and nothing is sacred to these folks. Your past, present, and future are sure to be ruined. Even if you could go back in time, as I have, you will never forget what you are about to hear. You've been warned. This is Time Pop.
Here it comes.
Welcome, Chrononauts, as we guide you through the experience of time travel using pop culture as our super sweet, what did I say it was?
Encrusted
glove. Jewel-encrusted glove. We will be your constants. I am Dez.
And I'm Ari.
And this is
Time Pop.
And that is
Scott. Thanks for having me, guys.
our pleasure.
Welcome back to the studio.
Oh, man. The studio's looking great. Big fan, big supporter. Time pop, time travel, superheroes, all of it.
This is a very special episode because we have a guest. Scott has recorded with us before, but as far as you, the viewer, the listener, is concerned, this is his introduction. You will be hearing more of Scott later. And before we get too into this, how you doing, Ari?
I'm good.
Good?
Yeah.
There we go. It's Sunday morning.
Yeah.
We're
pretty out.
We're up before noon. Things are happening.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Scott?
Oh, I'm great. This is culminating all of my stuff. This is superheroes. This is time travel. This is movies. I am ready to go.
What are we doing today, Ari?
Avengers Endgame.
Yes.
And there will be, hopefully you heard the spoiler alert up top. We're going to say it again because this is a new movie. Spoilers galore. Spoilers for the entire MCU. Spoilers for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Spoilers for...
I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this podcast, you have seen this movie and probably all the other movies surrounding it.
Very much so. So we are just going to jump right in. I'm going to jump in with my fact jeez.
That's what happens when you record before noon.
All right, yeah.
Take two.
All right, I'm going to jump right in with facts. The facts are going to be very short and sweet because otherwise they just go on forever and ever. The fact is there's, I think, 1 million hours of MCU. I did the math real quick. I think there's 1 million.
What? Wait, what?
Just kidding. No, there's not 1 million hours. But this is the 22nd movie in the... Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that doesn't even include all the TV shows that tie into it and whatnot. So the facts are, I actually looked this movie up on IMDb, and all it said was Christopher Walken is not in Endgame, and that was it. Everyone else is there. Just assume that if you're not Christopher Walken, you'll show up. This is officially Robert Redford's last movie. Like, he made such a big deal about his most recent Robert Redford vehicle was being his last movie. This will forever be known as Robert Redford's final.
Which part did he have?
He was he a
Of S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah.
was he a S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Oh,
in
he
the
was
past, he was the S.H.I.E.L.D., yeah. It was
the guy in
Winter
the
Soldier.
suit.
He's a suit.
Yes, he is.
Such a career, and he ends on Endgame.
So the only other person I'm going to mention, just because of time travel lore, is Evangeline Lilly. I love her so much because of Lost. Yeah, she has a very special place in my heart, and I was so glad to see her doing some more time traveling. That was fantastic. As far as hard numbers go, adjusted for inflation, this is the 5th highest grossing movie in history. Gone with the Wind, Avatar, Titanic, Star Wars, and then Endgame. But not adjusting for inflation, just hard dollars no matter when it was made. This is number 2, second to Avatar. And it's like 7 million shy. There's
That's
no
why they
way.
they re-released it with the extra footage, because I think they're just trying to beat Avatar, and they can.
And it comes out, I don't know when they're officially going to pull it, because it's going to be on digital download July 30th. So they've got like 15 days as of this recording.
And the digital download doesn't add to that number?
No, these are theatrical numbers.
Just theatrical?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as...
They might do it.
Yeah, as far as how much money this makes from beginning to end, it's going to be disgusting. And these are B's we're talking, not millions.
Billions?
Billions.
Oh. Let's talk about time travel.
Hey!
All right. So we are. So those are the facts. Scott is going to take the fiction portion of this opening and tell us what the actual film was about. If he can keep this under 45 minutes, he gets a lollipop.
Oh man, this is a big task. So bear with. If you've seen this movie, you know it is long, it is intricate. There's a lot of time travel. It goes into all of their 22 films. So we're going to try to break this down quickly, succinctly, nicely. Okay. All right, so here we go. Okay, so this is 23 days after Thanos used the Infinity Gauntlet to disintegrate and destroy the universe. All right, Captain Marvel came. She's rescued Tony Stark, Iron Man, and Nebula from space. She brings them back to the Avengers. They're all together, and they are planning to get the Infinity Stones back from Thanos and to fix everything. That is their goal. They find out that he is on a planet like in the middle of nowhere. He's kind of retired now. He's on vacation. They see him there. He's a little messed up. His skin's not so great. He's a little sickly. They find out that he's already destroyed all of the Infinity Stones after he wanted to make sure his work was complete. Thor's pretty angry at all this, and he chops off his head. So now they are hopeless. They are stuck in this world, in this timeline where half of the human race, half of all living things in the universe has been erased. So now they fast forward to 5 years later. Most of the world is generally depressed. Everyone has kind of moved on. You find out that Antman, Scott Lang, has been rescued from the quantum realm by a rat who happens to step on his machine that is rusty and dusty. We're not going to get into any of the holes of this now. We're just saying that is what happened. He comes out of the quantum realm and he comes to this world. What the hell's going on? And he's slowly figuring out that half of the human race is gone. He finds his way to the Avengers compound. He's finding that Captain America is kind of leading support groups. Black Widow is kind of running the show, but not doing anything. They're all depressed. Tony has actually formed a new family. He's got a new family. He's living in the woods. He's almost better. Anyway, Ant-Man is here and he's saying, hey guys, to me this feels like 5 hours passed, yet somehow it's been 5 years. So the quantum realm, maybe it's possible we can do some time travel. Maybe we can use this to fix things, do some time travel. So they all go to Tony Stark, try to talk to him about it and say, hey, you're the smartest man in the universe. Could you please find a way that we can use the quantum realm to time travel, go back and get the stones from before Thanos got them and did his snap and erased half the universe, and we can get it and use the time stones to erase that timeline. Iron Man now is his family now. He doesn't want to risk it, so first he says no. They walk away and they start experimenting with it. They've got a new Incredible Hulk that is now smart. And then eventually, Tony thinks about it. He looks at the Spider-Man who's away. He kind of, he's a big hero underneath it. He decides, I will help you guys. And he figures out how to do it. Great. So now they've got their plan. They are going to time travel. This has now become a time travel film, which made you very excited, I'm sure.
Very much.
Both of you very excited. Great.
Just real quick. The first time I saw this movie, I don't know what I was thinking, that it was a superhero movie with time travel. And then the second time I watched it, this is a friggin' time travel movie, beginning to end.
It's a frickin' time travel movie. Okay, great. So now they decide to split. They figure this out. They decide to split into groups, and they together figure out which timelines they can go into where they definitely know each one of the stones is. So they can go back, retrieve it, come back, and do their snap. All right, so I know that Hulk and Ant-Man and Captain America and Iron Man go back to New York City in 2012. They split up, and we'll get into that later, I guess, in terms of getting the two different stones that they receive. Let's see, then we got Thor and Rocket. They go to Asgard in 2013 to get a Reality Stone from Jane Foster. Nebula and Rhodes go to Morag in 2014 to get the stone before Peter Quill can. And then finally, I believe... Wait, there was one more group? Is that everybody? Oh, yeah. Then we got Black Widow and Hawkeye go to 2014, I believe, to try to get from the Soul Stone. They try to get the Soul Stone, which is, unfortunately, you got to leave a sacrifice, and we lose Black Widow in that. Great. So they go back. They encounter lots of nuances. Things, of course, don't work always as great as you expect it to. Most of them make it back to 2023, where they originally started. There's some trouble in New York. Iron Man and Captain America decide to go back even further in the past, I believe, to 1970 to try to retrieve it from Tony Stark's father. They successfully complete their task. They make it back to 2023. They decide that the Hulk is the only one who can bear the strength of wearing the glove, because apparently when you wear the glove and you do the snap, it affects you physically and kind of kills you slowly, which is what happened to Thanos, but the Hulk has got the gamma rays. It helps him out. So he does the snap, and great. They've now, seems like things are good, except what they don't realize was those that went back in 2014, they had Nebula. Nebula's got some circuitry in her system that was kind of, I guess, coinciding or communicating with the Nebula of the past, which alerted Thanos to the fact that these cats were back in the past trying to get the stones and that he had succeeded in the future. They realize this, switch the Nebulas. His bad Nebula goes to the future. She works the time machine to get 2014 Thanos to the present day 2023. The new Thanos is gone. This is the old 2014 Thanos. If you guys are not with me, totally get it. And then he decides to destroy the Avengers compound. He blows it up utterly. He is battling the Avengers. He is winning. Then, but what we forgot is when the Avengers snapped the glove, they summoned up all of the other superheroes that have been gone for 5 years. They now come back. There's a big battle royale. It still seems like the Avengers are going to lose. However, in this one moment where Tony Stark has this kind of look with Doctor Strange about things, and we'll get into that a little bit later, he actually swiftly steals the stones from Thanos without him realizing it. Tony Stark does the snap, erases all of the bad guys, and saves the day. Unfortunately, to his own demise in a very sad moment where Tony Stark dies, and then the world is saved.
The world is saved.
Thank you for bearing through me with that. That is not even a great explanation. It was the fastest way I thought we could do it. This is a meaty film, culminated 22 films, and it delves into all of that. All of these stories are really well crafted in terms of completing storylines they've been creating for 11 years.
Yeah, which isn't as long as I thought. As when I first started looking back and reminding myself of these movies, getting ready for this, I felt like it was 30 years in the culmination. Obviously I wasn't 10 when these movies started, but it's still, I can't believe what they've accomplished in 11 years. But that was amazing. Like, even as quickly as that was, I still caught a lot of things that you mentioned. They're like, oh yeah, and that happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of
So good
details
job.
we just left out. If we went to all the details, we would all be here for 4 more hours. So we'll delve into that in a little bit. But they did a great job of wrapping up tons of movies. And even in this ending movie, went back into the past of all their storylines. So it really wrapped up people that had been paying attention to these movies for all these years.
Yeah, I'm excited to rewatch them again with that eye of catching things in the past, because they really have been planning this very well. Ari, I dare you.
Oh boy.
Tell us the rules of this.
The laws of this universe?
The time
So-
travel laws of this universe.
When you travel back in time, you are creating a new timeline. So when they travel, it's creating a new timeline. It has to. That's how they get the new Thanos. Well,
They don't believe that when they embark on this. It isn't really until
they don't really talk about like
what's her name?
Well, they talk when they first start talking about time travel. They do. In fact, they even reference Back to the Future, right?
Yes.
They make jokes about kind of like, you think this is like Back to the Future, and Ant-Man is so upset that it's not linear time travel. He's like, it's not Back to the Future. Lied to me. And so they were saying, right, that when you go back in time, you do not affect that timeline you left from at all. You are creating an alternate timeline.
Do they mention that at the beginning when they're talking? 'Cause I didn't catch that in the film until Banner Hulk is trying to get the Soul Stone from Strange and encounters, bugging me, I can't even remember the
Oh, the
actress's
Mystic
name.
one, yeah. Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton, thank you. And encounters Tilda Swinton, and then she's the one that spells out, no, you're definitely going to create another timeline, which means you're screwing me in my timeline, so not cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at first she says no to him. No, you can't have my stone because you're going to ruin my timeline. And then he somehow convinces her that,
He says Strange gave up the Soul Stone.
yeah.
And she's like, well, if he is giving up the Soul Stone, then who am I
And then she
to
gives
argue?
it to him.
And then she gives it to him.
Yeah, it's pretty important to say at this point that in Infinity War, Doctor Strange apparently went into every possible timeline to see how they could win this, and he found out of millions and millions of possibilities, only in one timeline do they come out victorious.
Did he say millions? He actually said a number of how many.
He said the number, yeah. I don't know what the number was, but it was a very high
That's
number.
my job.
He
Sorry, I
into-
dropped the ball.
He looked into all the alternate possibilities, and in all of them, one did they come out victorious. There was only one possible chance, and so
Wow.
And when he said that,
then he gave up the stone.
he
in
said
that.
the key to that is Iron Man. So
Yeah.
that's where he's like,
And does that happen in Doctor Strange?
No, that's in Infinity War.
That's an Infinity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
He
he
just-
doesn't let. They're about to kill Tony Stark, and he gives up the stone as opposed to
To
Iron Man
save-
dying because he realizes he is essential to this one possible timeline where they win.
Okay.
So I think when Hulk brings up that he gave up the stone to her, that means, oh, he must have known this is the only way.
and so
See, I
and
didn't
she,
catch that. Awesome.
she, she said something along the lines of, "You have to bring this back."
Right.
Yes.
You have to return all the stones to the precise moment that you took them,
Right.
or you will forever alter those timelines.
So I interrupted you, but whatever laws they laid out at the beginning, you're right. So every time they travel, they create a new timeline.
They create a new timeline, and in order to repair that timeline, so they go to this new timeline, or they create it, however you want to think about it, and they take something from that timeline, the stone, and they're now permanently changing that timeline. And so she told Banner that you have to return all these things to the precise moment, or it will be...
They will not be able to
or-
defend themselves.
Yeah,
from all
my
these
timeline
forces
will
and-
forever ever be.
So the actual time travel doesn't create a splice. The removal of an important object
Well, that's the
creates the
question.
splice.
Depending on what you believe for time travel, do all those timelines and alternate realities already exist, or do they get created the moment that you time travel?
Yeah, no, they're saying once you make any change to any timeline, that's gonna. If I go back 20 minutes to the beginning of this and I yell the word fart in the beginning of this, that has now changed this timeline.
No, you've changed the new timeline.
I changed the new timeline.
Right.
So the theory is the very split second that you travel back in time, you either are creating a new timeline or just visiting another alternate universe timeline. So depending on what you believe when it comes to time travel, it either already exists or
Right,
you
I
are
see what you're saying.
creating it.
This is
Right.
the theory. If it's linear, if you're just saying this is the first time they've traveled in the past, then they created a new timeline. But if this is like always gone on and there's just all the possibilities already exist, then you're just visiting one of those possibilities.
Yes, and if you were to go back and do the exact same thing that you did before, then you're not changing, quote unquote, that new timeline. But if you take a stone, if you yell fart, you are now changing.
And just by being there,
by being
your
there, yeah.
gravitational pull is going to throw off
Yeah.
that existence. So
That goes
they-
along with butterfly effect theory, I would think.
Yeah, so I think the act of time travel does create a new timeline because I don't think it's possible to go back and not step on an ant, throw someone up, make someone wait longer at the bus stop.
Right, but she's saying, what if,
Especially if there are now two of you because you traveled in the past.
Oh.
So that already changes this timeline
Yeah.
or created this timeline, however you want to think about it.
you know, it's like the way we're talking about Doctor Strange, how he looked into all the other possibilities. Does that mean they all exist? Like we said, there's a universe for every possibility. And I mean, I think that's what she's saying.
That
Does
would
already
make
exist?
sense because for us, the viewer, it makes it really special that we live in timeline alpha. At least we have to assume. We have to assume that our
For our understanding, yeah.
that we don't live in one of the 999,000 universes that are now destroyed.
Definitely.
So holes.
There's a whole, I don't know if this is a whole, and this is interesting. I don't know if you guys talk about this. I love that this movie brings up that there's an ethics to time travel, right? This idea that if he goes to the past and he takes her stone, that he's messing up their timeline. Is there an ethics that they go to these other timelines? You know, Captain America meets, in that one timeline, he meets his former self. He's fighting with him. What is that going to do to their whole future and their world? You know, or is there any way that they've still changed how things are going to go for them? I don't know if that's a whole. It's almost like I said, there's an ethics in time traveling. Do you when you screw up someone else's past timeline?
Because that's true. In effect, they're changing the movies that we saw. Because
Right.
we saw the scene.
Not if they go back to the very moment that they took the stone and replace it precisely
No, okay.
in the
But
same
this is great.
way.
This is what I want to debate about. So let's say that timeline's happened. Now another Captain America goes back to replace the stone. There's still that guy that comes back and messes up and wrestles with himself. Even though they replace the stone, that still happened. In fact, so now we could say 3 Captain Americas have been in that place.
Because they fix our timeline, but that split where cap on cap happens.
So here's the thing. You go back in time, you remove something with the intention of going back again to replace it to quote unquote fix all the timelines, right? But every time you go back, you're creating another timeline.
Right. So here's what I'm saying. So the timeline where Cap went back, they screwed up, he wrestled with himself. There's no more affecting that. That timeline goes on, and whatever that effect they have of having to fight with themselves and whatever that changed them, we don't know.
Right, because theoretically, when they try to go back to fix that, to put it right back where they got it,
Yeah.
they're creating a whole nother timeline.
In that timeline also, if you guys, Loki ended up escaping. When all this goes down, Loki ends up getting one of the stones and escaping. So who knows what happens in that timeline? He might take over the universe. And this is what I'm talking to you guys about, ethics in time travel. Is it, not only should they be returning stuff, should they be kind of going back, finding themselves and saying, don't do your plan because it just messes things up?
Let's get into this, Scott.
I brought it up.
Is time travel inherently unethical? Period.
I know, right? You could say unless you are fixing the world, but that's a matter of perspective. We could say you could stop Hitler, and for us, that's you're fixing time travel. But from Hitler's point of view, you're really ruining things for him.
And someone's going to take his place. Who
Right.
knows?
Yeah, maybe you make it worse by eliminating Hitler. He becomes like this bitter martyr. So again, you never know.
Maybe Hitler defeated Loki. We don't know.
That being said, we're saying the ethics of a timeline, assuming that this is the one true timeline, and if there's just a myriad of timelines out there, then this ethics, they're all just happened, and we're just in this one.
I know this is the real timeline because I'm here. So
Timeline
this
alpha.
that's my narcissistic.
Oh, we're going deep down a hole.
Okay, so let me see. Oh, they used, of course, they get around a lot of this by the use of Ari's favorite word ever, quantum.
Quantum.
It just fixes everything. When you don't know
Throw
what...
quantum in the front of it, and you really don't have to explain how it works.
Is this the movie where they made that joke about it, or was that Ant-Man and Wasp? He actually says, you could just say quantum in front of everything.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was Wasp.
Was
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
I
They
feel-
definitely make fun of it, which is good.
I forgot that. That's right. I'm glad they point that out.
It's a loose enough thing where they're just assuming there's no rules, and you can kind of just do whatever you want if you learn how to master it.
I always like to imagine the little things that aren't explored. Like how many timelines were destroyed with them practicing with Scott, with Ant-Man.
Exactly.
When they send him back 4 times in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I mean, he comes back an old man.
Yep.
I mean, that
And a baby, right?
he comes back. Yes, he came back. I wrote down a kid, an old man, and a baby. I thought there was another one. I mean, just the ramifications of their tests.
So I saw this a little while ago. I saw it when it first came out, and we're recording this a few months later. So remind me what it looks like when they reappear. Do they show, like, they go into that, like, sinkhole looking platform device thing, and then do they show what it looks like when they reappear in the place they want to? Do they just, like, pop into...
Oh.
What does it look like? Do you guys remember?
No.
They don't. And this is, I know Ari's big thing is about traveling through time and space. In this, they do travel through time and space because using the quantum realm, they're not in the same place. They go to, I mean, obviously they're going to different parts of the universe.
Yeah, so they have somehow figured out, so we're talking about holes again. They've somehow figured out how to navigate through space and time, but they don't explain that at all.
Because
it's
it
quantum.
shows them like going down. Doesn't it like show them going down tunnels?
Yeah.
And taking lefts and rights.
Yeah, like a map.
Yeah, because they don't really show how they're calibrating each person to go.
So the science of this movie is if you go down into the quantum realm, which for those of you that don't know means they are smaller than a proton or a neutron or an electron, which are the tiny little particles that make up an atom, the smallest particles.
Smaller than time itself.
Oh, interesting. Smaller than time itself. We can talk about that. That is a...
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
That's a thing right there. But so they're smaller than the smallest known particles in the universe, right?
Yes.
Just throw quantum in the front of it and you can do
Yes.
whatever you want. So because they are so small, they somehow can travel back in time and also put in coordinates of location, we'll say.
I hadn't thought about that till right now, but yeah, I think they're in such a different realm that their brain's just like, I need to go to 2014, and the quantum realm's like, gotcha. Yeah. And then that's
It's a
where
little
they go.
bit of a whole. If you guys have seen the Ant-Man films, in the original film, they always warned him. He gets very small. They say once you get that small, you go to the quantum realm. Like your brain kind of can't handle it. Like time and space have totally different meanings there. Things don't work. The laws of nature don't work, and usually your sanity can't handle it. In the second film, he ends up going there. He makes it back, and now they treat it like it's a walk in the park. In fact, Michelle Pfeiffer, we find out, is trapped in there in the second film, and she's been living in the quantum realm for years, and she's totally fine and makes it out. When originally they were just scared that you can't maintain your sanity there because the laws.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about smaller than time, that yeah, time and space mean a whole different thing there.
My favorite term, it just came up on my notes. When Cap goes back to fix everything, they said, don't forget to do this, don't forget to do that. He said, don't worry, I'll clip all the branches. I don't know why. I just love that that term that, as because you see them going down the tunnel and making lefts and right, like they're branching off. And he just goes back and just snips those out of their timeline. And
This
I like
might
that.
be a whole, actually, now that you bring that up. When they do return, they all return specifically to the time travel device that they left from. But that doesn't, when they travel to the past, they don't need that as a landing part. The quantum realm takes them to wherever.
Yeah, they don't show them landing.
So they all wear...
They show them coming back.
They come back to the same place. Both times they all come back to the same place. When they leave to the past, they go to wherever they're going to.
So they all wear suits, right? They're all
Special
wearing like
suits, yeah.
space suits. And I guess within those space suits is the ability for them to return because they don't show any kind of return device, do they?
They do. They have a thing on their wrist.
It's like, now that I think about it, it's like an Ant-Man suit.
They have an Ant-Man
but
suit,
it just
right?
shrinks
Because
them
they all have to go
down.
that small to get into the quantum realm.
Yeah.
So they have an Ant-Man suit, and within that suit is the ability for them to return.
Well, it's the ability for them to shrink down
And they can plot their coordinates.
into
I
the
think it was on
quantum
their-
realm.
I think it was on their wrist or
and
something.
then
yeah.
I don't know that they plot. I I feel like that they go where they want to once they get to the quantum realm. I feel like they're just
It's all
They do.
mental.
telepathically.
No, I think there's.
You think they were
Yeah, there's devices.
like
'Cause
Doc Brown.
They Doc Brown it because then
1955.
Tony and Captain America have to choose that place when they go back to 1970. They got to go to Camp Pendleton or whatever it was to go back even
Yeah.
further in time. But here's my whole is one is there they have to come back, and then when Captain America at the end, like they're saying, he's clipping the trees, he goes back to fix everything. When everybody returns back, Captain America is not to be found. Later on at the end, you see Captain America as an old man sitting on a bench nearby, and this is the big. Everyone's trying to figure out if he just lived in that timeline, if he didn't come back and he just waited there, or if he just time traveled back but somehow did not land in the machine. He happened to land at that bench. It's a little bit of a hole. One of the bigger points of confusion for this film.
I think, well, based on the video we had to watch to try to put this timeline together, he lived in an alternate universe because he made a very different choice, which now makes sense to me because my first thought the second time I saw it was he screws the timeline up bad. Like if Agent Carter does anything different, like she's a very integral part in getting S.H.I.E.L.D. up and running. And like I didn't watch Agent Carter, but Kelly did a little bit. And I think if she doesn't follow through with her plan, I think it throws S.H.I.E.L.D. off, which throws the Avengers off.
This is the ethics of time travel.
Yes.
Or when he even spoke when Tony Stark met his dad in the past, how does that affect his life? And and Captain America goes back to a past, never becomes Captain America, and just lives out his life with Peggy Carter. So it takes her out of her game. There's no Captain America in that world. So if the whole Avengers thing happened there without him, what are the repercussions?
Is that, I mean, I guess if you believe what Doctor Strange says, all these timelines are doomed anyways. So he just lives a fantastic life with Agent Carter. She's not alive long enough to see Thanos. So when she passes away of natural causes, then he comes back to our timeline.
All right, well, here's the hole then. He comes back to timeline, but I guess he just appears at that bench. He doesn't appear because he could have chosen to come back at the same time, which it seems like he does as the heroes, but he just shows up on the bench nearby just at that time. But he didn't, everyone else landed in the machine and he does not. So it kind of raises your question, like, was he already here and he just showed up? Or how did he?
That's
it's
true. If he had to time
hole.
travel anyways, why not come back to the machine?
Right.
So that
If
does...
he just time travel anyway, you would just come back to the machine. But he's in alternate timeline, so unless he came back earlier and he just happened to be waiting at that bench, it's a weird small hole.
No, that's a bit. It just depends on how he did it. Depending on how he does. I mean, if he lives out his life in our timeline, it's a huge hole because he screws everything up.
Yeah, no, I think it's the alternate timeline. I think.
But if he time travels at that moment.
So he kept the suit all those years and then used it to visit after the funeral
Yeah.
Yeah.
to be dramatic.
Yeah, to be dramatic, but there's no Captain America in that timeline because So anyway,
Well,
these are
because he knows he can't show up sooner because if he shows up before, if he bumps into himself before he goes back to fix everything, he might mess that up. So he knows he can't really make an appearance until
after he leaves.
Yeah. So whether
Okay.
he time travels or wanders onto that bench, he knows he's got to wait until he goes first.
Then just weird that he just didn't appear, and he appeared just a little distance off.
Just off there.
Yeah.
Dramatic.
That's how he does. So yeah, those are. I mean, as I know, Ari says, there's always holes.
There's always
As hell.
holes, and they're fun to think about. That's why we love time travel so much. It exercises your brain.
They do try when they first talk about time travel in this film. They do try to erase everything you know about time travel, and Back to the Future is not real. And then, like even you said, the Ancient One, she tries to kind of lay out alternate timelines.
Well, and I liked how the nebulas cross paths because that came up in See You yesterday. It was kind of similar to having two cell phones in the same world. And so, yeah, I thought that was interesting that having two nebulas in the same timeline is what brought it to Thanos' attention. And I liked that.
Yeah, I mean, it brings up the idea of matter taking up the space in the same timeline. It's questionable that can work, and especially, I guess, if it's got electronic signals, even less so.
Let's get into something slightly differently for a minute, just since we're talking about this movie and we're talking about crazy sci-fi stuff. How does the glove work? How do the stones work in general? Do they have to be a glove? Could you put them in a satchel?
It does not have to be the glove. That's just a dramatic way he did for it. If you own the 5 stones, you can do whatever you want. I think that was his just dramatic way.
And everyone had to snap their fingers, though.
Okay, this brings up, we want to talk about holes. This brings up a great one. In Infinity War, they just say, if you have the stones, you could stop the universe with a snap of your fingers. It's an expression. It's just meant to be an expression. It doesn't have to be literal. They're all so concerned about the snap. You don't need the snap. It could be a point. It could be, they couldn't get their finger. You could just think it and it would work. You could just say it out loud. Everyone gets so obsessed with the snap.
And God forbid you sneeze and think of a pink elephant at the last minute before you snap. You get it just does whatever you're thinking at that moment.
Yeah, you can do anything pretty much.
They explained each stone, right? And where they came from, the origin of each stone. Do you remember what
Yeah.
that is?
At some point, I don't know if they got into that in Endgame too much.
Oh, they don't say where the stones come from. They just say
But
I
what
don't think but
what they are. They
Yeah, the soul stone and the time stone.
Did they say where they came from, the origin of them?
Well, the stone wasn't the blue stone, the one that trails through all of the. What's the one that Loki's always after? The Infinity Stone.
Yeah.
That's the one that did that have Earth origins or did that have Asgardian origins?
Now we're getting into some stuff.
I know this isn't time travel, but we're deep in sci-fi stuff, and all this time travel kind of comes from the glove.
Yeah, we'd have to look that up, I think, but
So Doctor Strange always had the time stone. The time stone is the green one, and is that
Orange one.
orange one? Okay, whatever. There was a time stone, and Doctor Strange is the one that always had the time stone. That was where his powers come from.
he has his powers through wizardry anyway, but then they gifted him that one. He has powers besides that. That's a very powerful
That
device.
superhero in those comics and those stories, he always has the time stone.
Yes.
So I don't know
In
much
his
about.
necklace, yeah.
I don't know much about.
So the stones, by the way, here, the gems are mind, power, reality, soul, space, and time.
So I don't know much about Doctor Strange, the comic, the stories. Is it a lot have to do with time?
No, they're more kind of wizards that defend the universe.
But he always
they
has...
they do those powers through their own knowledge and practice. That is actually a stone that was kind of like hidden because it was so dangerous. He ended up using it, and they kind of let him keep it in a necklace.
He more manipulates time in the moment.
Okay, so in the comics, he doesn't always have the time stone. It's just for
It is in his
Infinity?
necklace, but that's not where his powers come from. I don't think he uses it often.
Okay.
Doctor Strange was the one that I needed to see. That's the movie I need to rewatch the most after seeing this. Because at the end of the movie, when all of the good guys show up, are they alive in that timeline and it just took them a while to get there? Or is Doctor Strange...
No, yeah, it was
Running
good.
around
First time I
gathering.
saw it, I had that question. So apparently, the years have passed. They've just been to them in a blink of an eye. They know that they were gone, and they come back at the same age they were to the same timeline. They missed some years. And that gets covered in the following Spider-Man movie. In fact, just as the Spider-Man movie, there are people that, like, there are teenagers who had younger siblings who are now older than them. So they actually cover that. Spoiler. So they are saying that for these people. And that's why when they snapped the stone to bring the people back, they could have reworded it to not have this time gap. It was poorly planned. So now it's 5 years later and people come back the same age as when they left.
So they showed up just like, whoa, what happened? And Doctor Strange went around and said, we
Hey,
got to
guys.
get to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, in their creativity, unfortunately, the way that they did the stone snapping now, they also didn't bring back any of the people who died like Vision. They'd kind of just,
Yeah.
they could have.
Yeah, how come they didn't bring back people that died? They could have, right?
Well, the ones who died for the Soul Stone, you can't bring them back. That is like for eternity. But yes, with the other ones, they specifically, like, I think they wanted to just undo what had been done. They just could have planned it better. So yeah, poor planning on their part. But it's a lot of pressure on them. They also didn't need to snap.
That's if there are any laws to this time travel at all, then people who technically died naturally, even if it's through this war, you don't want to bring all them back. And that brings up all kinds of other ethical issues.
It brings up the ethics of time travel. That's going to be a new college course that I'm teaching this semester. The ethics of time travel. Again, you think about even Back to the Future, right? He thinks he's doing good, but like he's changing a timeline that existed. Who's that for Marty to decide? It's just a topic I'm bringing up. It's a new idea. Check out my class.
I love it. I'll be in it. I have 27 pages of notes because I took them in a dark theater.
For about 3.5 hours.
So you saw the new release with the extended footage?
Yeah.
Was there a lot of new stuff?
No. If anyone... I was going to see it again anyways, so this is no skin off my back. But anybody who ran back to the theater to see this extra footage
will be severely disappointed.
Got ripped off. Because it's just stuff after the credits. There's a really nice homage to
Stan
Lee, and there's a couple scenes from the new Spider-Man movie. Or no, there was one or two scenes that they really enjoyed but just didn't fit in the movie. They're like, we just couldn't find a place for these to fit in a over 3-hour movie already, but they're great scenes. And they were kind of cool because they were unfinished, so you saw green screen and weird stuff from the back, which I always appreciate. And then a scene from Spider-Man.
And it was after the credits?
And it was after the credits.
Oh, that's sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, like I said, there was no skin off my back. I was going anyways. But yeah, if you were like, oh, rad, 10 minutes, let's go. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, the movie, I think, they had an intention. Iron Man kind of started this whole franchise, and to end on him doing that was kind of a great culmination of this first phase. And also him always being this guy that was into his ego that ended up being the big hero. That was kind of very good. Very emotional. Lots of crying people in the theater when I was there. I know people, I think, were disappointed that Captain Marvel didn't play as big a role in this. They kind of expected her to be the answer to everything.
Yeah, which she was.
Well, she saved Iron Man in the beginning, which is huge. And in the end, they kind of come back and do some blasting. And
she's the one who gets the glove to Tony.
I mean, it gets passed on from, Spider-Man.
She gets something to the van. What does she get to the van?
She destroys that big ship. She flies through the
She
big...
flies through the ship, yeah.
Yeah.
I get the sense, I don't know much about that Marvel character at all, but I get the sense that she's almost like Superman in a sense,
Yeah,
where
she's
she's just
super powerful.
indestructible and there's not much, there's not much she can't do, so there wouldn't be much of a story.
And I read they wanted to stick more like this is the story of the first 7 Avengers and their whole thing, and wanted to wrap that up more.
Did you guys see Captain Marvel?
Yes.
I did not.
I enjoyed it because I knew it was I sensed it was just kind of a lead up to Endgame. Kelly was really disappointed because she was just ready for a whole new exciting adventure, and all she got was Avengers 2.5.
Yeah, I mean, you made it. We kind of all thought Captain Marvel was like the answer to all of this, and she'd be more integral, but that was not the case.
Can I just say I can't believe how this movie ends. So the last scene you see in this movie is a Top Gun-esque silhouette of tongues touching between Captain America and Agent Carter. And it was just such a strange... Obviously, it's great that they embraced and they got together and we got to see that. But the second time I saw it, it was just very shocking to me how graphic of a kiss they went with for a fade out on this universe.
Love conquers all, right? That's the message.
That's America's ass.
In comic book geek world, there's plenty of articles going around of how the Captain America would never do that it's so unethical for him to go back and change her timeline and change their timeline just so he can kind of get some love. It's just not in his character. He's such a man of honor and like what's right and what's wrong. But, Captain America deserves to get a little...
That's why I feel like he only did it
stuff.
because he knows by then that he's creating a timeline that doesn't matter. And, well...
See?
Sorry.
That's the ethics.
Oh,
all those people that
wow.
exist
Did
in
I
that
just say that?
timeline don't matter. And then it's in Captain America, we said his timeline. So he just selfishly is God of this world that he changed because he's a time traveler. Again, you guys always have the holes with the science and stuff, and I find it weird that this one, the holes to me feel ethical more than scientific.
Because
you
can't
control a whole universe by time traveling. Captain America goes back. He can make all this change because he chooses to do this, and he changes the lives of all these people of this timeline. I'm not saying someone has a God complex, but
Well, I actually wrote it down because Doc Brown gets around it by... Yeah, no, that doesn't.
Same
I was gonna say
thing.
Doc Brown gets around it, but he saves people who were dead and then lives outside of society, basically, in his flying train. Because I wrote down what I was wondering is if Captain America went back to Agent Carter and then said, your timeline is doomed, sorry, but those are the facts. Let's go to an island.
right. And
And-
he takes her away. Because it's like saving Doc Brown. He goes back to the West. Clara Clayton was supposed to die. Now she doesn't. Every person that she comes into contact with, she affects their lives. Again, we go into butterfly effect. There's huge ramifications to changing any of this. But maybe there's no ethics. Maybe that's assuming that there's one timeline that's supposed to happen. And if you think of the multiverse, then you think all these universes are always all happening, and then it's fine. But that gets a little infinite and hard for us to kind of think about. Deep down the rabbit hole. That's what we're doing. Going deep down the
That's
hole.
what we do.
No, I don't know. I think, for the comic book fans, the Avengers, they handled it. Everybody's very happy. Wrapped up all their timelines. Great story arcs, right? Captain America finds his thing. Iron Man finds his honor.
I think it's a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
And I only know a little bit about the Marvel comic book world, some of the major player characters, and I thought it was a phenomenal movie.
But you know a lot about talking about like time traveling, about story arcs and storytelling. To do one of these movies is a feat. The fact that they tied in these 11 movies with minimal holes and to wrap up great story, character arc stories for all of them is a feat that has not been done in the history of film.
Yeah.
And a lot of planets and universes and realms.
There's a lot that they're covering. The amount, and even story-wise, right? All these character arcs. You have so many characters that you're working on. It is hard to make all that flow.
Okay, Scott. Time travel exists as laid out in Avengers Endgame. Do you use it, and how do you use it?
This goes into the ethics.
Oh yeah.
Do I go back to the Avengers and just say, before you guys do this?
No. Well,
No,
I-
you.
For my own selfish purposes?
This world right now, in this world where the Avengers don't exist, time travel does.
But it's the same device.
So yeah,
Right.
all
I
the
I
phone-
invented this machine. You wear a suit. It makes you really small. You get down to quantum size. Travel. Do you use it?
I mean, we're just talking about this, so I am concerned about the ethics of time travel. If I feel like this like interrupts or destroys the universe, maybe I'll be like this amazing hero and not do it. Although I would kind of love to go back to Woodstock. I think that'd be a good time.
There you go.
I'd like to go back to the 60s a little bit and see what's good.
I feel like you could get away with that and not change too much.
Yeah. Or again, like you
You
can
could just
go...
be a figment of someone's stoned imagination, and you won't affect any real change.
I know that you guys are big fans of future travel. Theoretically, ethically, that is the better ethical route.
Wait, can you even go into the future? Do they do it in Antman?
Oh, they only went to the they went
So
to the future of
here's
the present.
here's the question, or here's the answer. I don't know. They go into the past, and then they have to come back to the future. So theoretically, yes, this can travel into the future.
No, because they only come back
to the
where
platform.
they started from.
to where they started from.
They never go beyond, he said.
Oh.
But if you're just thinking about the laws of like
But
the way the quantum realm works, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to.
But Captain America, if he does travel, he doesn't come back to the same. Where does he come back to
Well-
if he time travels one more time?
Wait, what? Say that again?
That's the debate.
Captain America, at the end of the movie, if he does in fact go to the 40s, split off a timeline, live for 70 years, and then time travel back to 2019, where does he travel back to? What machine does he?
2019 or 2023? He travels back to the funeral?
Oh, that's right. It ends in 2023. Well, back to where we see him at the end of the movie.
Well, okay, so traveling back, if you think of it as like a tether, no matter what timeline you're in, if you have the suit, you can travel back to the platform. Is that what you're saying? So he, as an old man, knew that the funeral was going to happen on this day, and so he used the suit. He traveled back to the
He
platform.
doesn't, though. They're standing.
Yeah,
and
guys.
then walks to the bench.
Wait, this
They're
raises up a good
standing
point.
right there.
He's
They're
not
standing
wearing
at the platform the
He's
whole
also
time.
not wearing the suit.
Yeah, there's a bunch of holes. But let's say for your question, as far as can you travel into the future, it sounds like the answer is no, because you need the platform to travel back to.
That's what I think.
But they went to the past without the platform and came back to it. Couldn't they go to the future and come back to the past to their platform? Like the
We
tether.
don't know that.
That's a good
There's
point.
no reason why
We
they
don't.
can't. The quantum realm is as it is, should be.
I mean, technically, Scott, Antman, traveled to the future. He was stuck in the realm. For him, it was 5 hours, but when it came out, it was 5 years. That's the future. So he technically traveled to the future.
And there was no platform there. To
No,
go
but he
to.
was in his machine.
He was in the quantum realm.
He had his machine as a tether. But again, you're tethering to.
But that's like that's basically how time travel exists in reality. You just travel far enough and fast enough. You know, it's like if you got in a rocket ship and went.
Oh, you mean if you went near a black hole, time would
No, I mean right now. I mean astronauts time travel all the time because
on minute microscopic
Right.
amounts, yes.
right, but it's still the same type of time travel where if you just sit in the right spot for long enough.
Yeah.
Well, no, I take that back
You're
because
talking
it
like
wasn't. You're right because it was only. Scott did say it was only a couple hours.
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
So the only possible type of time travel that actually could theoretically exist right now in our world is if you got near a black hole or something of massive amounts of gravity. Closer you get to that, the slower time moves for you, but everything else further away from that black hole moves a lot quicker, like in Interstellar. Okay, I just have to throw that out there because I love that.
That's the coolest.
we gotta do
That's the most
Interstellar.
real form of time travel.
That
we
movie
can
is the most
establish.
real form of time travel.
Yeah.
Is Interstellar.
So we're doing the tangent from your question. So
Okay.
Oh man.
So Scott's
Yes.
going to Woodstock, which
Or the future. There might be other things I'm thinking of. Right now, Woodstock came to mind. It seems like a fun party. Special time in American history.
Ari.
So I usually answer this question with I would go to the future. My answer is usually always, you know me, I'm a futurist. So, but with this one, I think I would go to the past because I know for a fact that with this time travel device, you're creating a new timeline. And I am not ethical like Scott Lifton over here. So
Screw them.
Screw that. I'm gonna go to another timeline. It's not my timeline. I'll
You'll pull a Biff Tannen. You'll go back. You'll kind of get the sports almanac, make a few bets, get some money, come back.
and then I can go back to my timeline and without hurting my timeline. So I can go to the past in someone else's timeline and fuck it up.
Or not. And that's the thing is you don't know if you're gonna fuck it up.
Most likely you're gonna fuck it up. Even if you move a little thing over to the left, it could fuck it up, right?
Let's say in 20 years, Ari goes back 40 years and opens up a bank account.
Oh.
And then goes back to your original timeline, and now you've got all that money. But now you, today, all of a sudden have a bank account with 20 years worth of interest sitting in it.
So
that's in the alternate timeline.
So here's my question. When you go back and you affect another timeline and then you go back to your timeline, is your timeline affected?
No.
Theoretically, right, but it seems like in this movie, it does.
Well, some Ari in some universe.
Oh, because what they did in the alternate universe, they're bringing to this universe. Oh, man. I see what you're
So
saying.
theoretically, you go to another timeline and it up. I know you're going to be using your bleep button a lot for this episode. If you go back and screw everything up and then go back to your timeline, theoretically, you didn't change anything in your timeline because it was a completely different timeline, right?
Ooh.
So many holes and things to think about.
Again, and that's where I think just the fact, however you travel, you're going to create some kind of a force of energy that's going to affect your timeline.
Yeah, just by your presence.
I think unless you can affect time travel without energy, you're going to affect your timeline.
Like if you could just
Because
see
if right
into
now,
another
if right now
timeline-
you create a black hole and step into it, and then immediately step out of it, that black hole is still leaving an energy footprint in this universe that's going to change something.
If you use a black hole to travel, but in this movie they use
It's still energy, though. I'm just using black hole. They're putting a huge amount of energy into the universe.
it seems like they're more sucking it into their machine, but I see what you're saying.
There's a balance of nature. There's a certain amount of matter in the world and energy. And if another Desmond is there, then that's another.
Well, here's the thing. There's another Desmond in the other timeline that you've created. In your timeline, you just disappear. You're gone. You're in another timeline in the past, wherever you choose to go, screwing things up if you choose. And then if you go back to the platform, if you're tethered to, let's say, the very moment you left, your timeline is not changed at all.
No, the pressure you've put on the power grid is enough to affect change in that realm.
Is it considered change, though, if it happened in the very moment? It's not in the past? Or is it
Unless
just...
you come back 2 minutes before you time travel and kill that Ari and take her place.
That would change things.
No, because then you wouldn't have the energy.
Because then for an instant, there would be two of you in the same timeline, and that would change things.
That would change things. So again, you're basically the only thing you're changing is the amount of energy in the room.
So you're there, you disappear, and then you reappear.
What are you whatever device you're using to disappear and reappear is going to leave an energy
Stamp.
But what is that
fingerprint.
really going to do to your timeline? It's not changing your timeline because it's happening in...
You are, though. You're turning the device on and off.
But it's not
That's
changing
effect.
anything. You're just... That timeline, that's what happens.
Do you mean more like ripples in space, in time and space?
I'm talking about it's not going to change. The only way to change something is to go back. If your timeline's going, you disappear... Whoa, I just hit my mic. My mic is falling apart over here.
I got Ari worked up on this one. I love it.
Timeline is going, right? I'm moving my hand across space in a line, and then it disappears. I pull my hand away, right? That timeline is still going. It's still existing, and then you just reappear either in the same exact moment or a few minutes later. You're not changing anything because the timeline is still progressing forward. And in order to change something, you have to go on back to the past to a moment that had already existed. You are not redoing a moment that is already existing.
I disagree.
Wow. This is Des and
also-
Ari's first
Yeah.
disagreement.
love it.
Again, I also think I am not a scientist, but I think there's a balance of the universe of matter that is here. I think if there's two Aris in this room, there's somehow that upsets the state of nature of that same matter occupying.
But I think
space at the
turning
same
a
time.
device on and off is going to affect that nature just as well. Even if it's the blink of an eye, you disappear, you reappear.
Yeah.
Even so, in theory, nothing should really change. But if your device turns on and off, you're affecting change in that timeline.
So it can't be change if that was already what was going
If
to happen.
I walk over there and turn that light switch on and off, or I don't, those two things affect change.
Are you
The
suggesting,
fact-
Desmond? Are you suggesting that like this timeline was supposed to have this one way, and then once you like did the time travel, even though you went back and forth, you've changed it?
I'm saying especially because of what I feel like would be the energy necessary for time travel. Whether you're plugging something into the wall or using that, whether you're creating a black hole, whether you're creating a proton influx detonator.
Why do you think that creates change? Let's say it takes.
If a butterfly flapping its wings creates change, you exerting an amount of energy that can affect time.
In that sense, then anything and everything creates change.
Exactly.
Okay, if that's what you're saying. I'm just stuck on the word change. To me, change means that you are going back and changing it.
No. I'm just saying in this timeline, if you decide to go back and not change anything and come back, whether you change anything or not, I think just the fact that you're time traveling or not, those are two timelines. I did time travel. I didn't time travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a
There
very
we go.
reluctant. She doesn't. She's not actually buying it. She just wants to move on. We'll come back to it.
So to answer your question, screw the ethics. Yes, I would go fuck up someone else's timeline, come
Okay.
back to my timeline, and be all peachy keen.
All right, but where would you go specifically?
Oh,
You said now you're gonna go back to the past. Even if you're the future, if you're the past, what date, what location? Do you
I would
pick?
go to the past and so many things. I would probably do the classic kill Hitler. Let's see what happens if I do that. I would do things so I can be super rich. Why not?
Now, just because you go back to the past doesn't mean killing Hitler is easy. There's like military. There's people that you're not highly trained.
Yeah, but if
to
you
get
can
past them.
find, since you can
find the places and
travel the precise location, the precise location. This machine allows you to travel there just by thinking it, right, Desi?
Exactly. Imagine
Yeah,
how humiliating it would be.
Program coordinates.
Imagine how humiliating it would be for him to get his throat slit on the toilet.
By a Jew.
Perfect.
Gotcha.
I guess if you could do a bunch of trips, I could do some personal stuff. I can go back and fix some stuff in my own timeline. I could ask the girls out that I didn't
Definitely.
in high school or whatever.
Well, no, because you'd go back as an old man. I don't think you want to be.
I could give myself advice.
There you go. There you go.
All right, Desi, same question for you.
Yeah, I definitely use it. I think you've convinced me, Ari. I think I would create a lot of branches. I don't know why, but I think it's just the blinking nature of the quantumness of this device that would make it hard to not just go everywhere and do everything. And most likely this ends very poorly for me as I then spend...
And a bunch of alternate universes.
Yeah, and so for the first 20 years, I just create a bunch of crazy things. And then the last 20 years of my life, I probably die frustrated from trying to fix all the horrible, horrible dominoes I affect in so many timelines when I see where they go. Because with the ability to just blink, affect, blink, see what happens, blink, effect, like, I think it would be hard not to just be like, yeah, just go do a ripple of water, go forward, see what happens. And I would probably die crazy and insane from over jumping and then trying to fix all of my errors. This is probably a horrible life for me, but that's probably what I do just because of the hubris that the ability to time travel brings on all humans.
I'll tell you what, for one of our next birthdays, the three of us will go back. First, we'll go to like a Prohibition era speakeasy. We'll kind of dance around, have a few drinks, going out to Woodstock, see what's good there. We'll go check out a 70s disco party, 80s new wave and stuff. It'll be a great birthday party. We'll just hop
Totally.
around. All right, you guys are
I'm in.
Great.
I'm going to go to all of the Motley Crue concerts I went to, and there's going to be 2 Desmonds at every Motley Crue concert I've been to, and we'll just see if I can create a timeline where Motley Crue never breaks up and they become the super band that they were always meant to be.
Would you? Well, actually, would you? If you could go back, if you can go back to like watch one part of your life, would you guys do that? Or is there one part of your own personal life
Just
that-
watch or
yeah, that you would not
redo?
affect, that you're actually just watching? This is not even saying a fixing. It's almost like more of a reminiscing of seeing a nostalgic moment or something. It's an interesting one.
I would be too compelled to warn myself or
Yeah.
try to fix something
Few
Yeah.
few
from the
pivotal moments.
past.
I was part of the Buffalo Bills of Billings, Montana. 4 years in a row, my football team went to the championship game, and 4 years in a row, we got stomped at the championship game. So I'm winning one of those games.
Oh,
there
there
we
it
go.
is.
I'm just saying it. That's the major weird past I changed.
I think I would not do the high school prank that got me in trouble, and maybe there's a few people I would have made out with that I didn't get.
So
to
you
do.
would change. You wouldn't just observe. You would actually change things.
No, I was saying that just this is all, random questions? What if you couldn't even affect things?
I'm with you, Scott. I am disappointed in realizing how many wonderful experiences I missed out with women because I didn't just go for it.
The classic male time travel script is just being less shy when you're younger.
Yes.
Most of
going
us who
back
are
with-
reasonably nice people now were probably really shy as a teenager and now, could go back. But yeah, this brings up again all the points. Say Desmond won the football game. Say I didn't do my high school prank. And then I come back to the future. And because maybe that didn't knock me down a few bits, maybe I become a little more arrogant. Maybe I marry someone who's like a huge douchebag and I come back and my future sucks. Maybe because Desmond won that thing, he becomes this overconfident braggart who goes through years being drunk and stuff and he becomes someone he doesn't like. So you never know, right?
Then I have to kill that Desmond.
Then you got to go back again and now you got to lose the game again. We should write time travel movies together, guys.
Absolutely.
I think we just
I think
did.
we are.
I think we just did.
Rating.
Oh, 10.
Whoa. Out of 10?
Yeah.
Wow.
I also tend to rate things really high.
Yeah.
I almost can't give anything a 10, but I would go
Nothing?
like 9.
You couldn't give any single
10
movie.
is suggesting a perfect film.
Yeah.
Is a perfect
Time travel. A perfect time travel film. There is not in your opinion, there is not a single perfect time travel film?
I'm going to jump in just to make this harder on Scott. I'm giving it a 10 too.
Whoa.
Just because of how much went into this.
Yeah.
Like the 20-second movie, there's plenty of holes.
Of course.
but-
There
the holes
will
are
always
limited. For what they did, these are pretty limited holes. If we go to any other time travel movie, there's much more holes.
And I
than
know a
this.
big part of this is it's new and it's fresh in my mind, but right now, right here, I'm giving it a 10.
All right. I'm still saying 9. Bless you. I'm going to go back in the past and get you a tissue before that even happens.
Wow.
I'm going to give it a 9 or 9.5 as one of the higher end time travel
Wait a minute.
films.
I have a question. Is there no perfect time travel movie to you? Is there
Mostly there's not. I almost emotionally want to say Back to the Future as like this standard and like as a script for a film that like, if I was teaching how to write a script, that film is perfect in terms of like the situation and the conflict and and it's a standard. That's more for emotional reasons, I think, than technical. I almost can't rate any movie like a 10.
why though?
That's perfect. That's a perfect film. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So meaning there can be nothing wrong with it. There would be nothing that you would do
I don't
better.
even know how that could be achieved.
Okay.
Like there's no film that could be better than this in the history of time. This is perfection. The word perfect is hard for me. So I could do 9 or 9.5.
Yeah.
All right.
That means I'm going to have to give something an 11 in the future because
That's true.
I know
means
there's because Back to the Future, speaking of which, it gets a 10 as a movie.
Yeah.
But as a time travel movie,
That's time travel theory.
I love it, and I hate to rag on it at all. But as far as time travel goes, there's a lot of movies that have come along time travel wise that have taken its place.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought for this one, one of the holes was going to be this idea. They said it was an alternate timeline. So say like when Hawkeye like goes and checks out his family and then he just comes back to them. I was like, well, now he's in an alternate timeline. How does he come back to them? But I've seen this map now. I get it. They come back to the original timeline because it's quantum. They can move around. So yeah, there's minimal holes for this.
Quantum.
there's still holes.
There's
There
just-
will always be holes.
Yeah.
But they're more ethical. And then there's the Captain America thing. But besides that, this is one of those minimal hold time travel movies I think you would have.
The question is, does a time travel movie exist with no holes? That's the question for everybody.
What's it called? Primer
Okay.
has maybe no holes.
I don't know because I think they get around the holes in Primer. We miss a bunch of stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's not get into that. The question is,
Future episode.
we are looking for a time travel movie with no holes.
There you go.
If you have it, suggest it. We're going to watch it. We're going to talk about it. Yeah.
Challenge Stone. Or you know what? Give us one with the most holes. Give us the
Yeah, life has holes in it.
I think that a time travel movie with no holes does not exist.
You got to get it up to the Avengers. I mean, Star
Yeah.
Wars was relatively well thought out, and there's holes all over the place. These guys did 22 movies
Yeah.
with minimal holes, well thought out, planned over the course of however many years.
Scott, do you want to throw any ats at anybody?
People can find me through. You go talk to the Time Pop people; they know where to find me. I'm a man of mystery, going throughout time and space.
There you go. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe to Time Pop. Please tell a neighbor or friend about it so you can enjoy a discussion of your own on the topic of time travel. And if you hated every second of this but are unable to go back in time and recoup what you have lost, tell someone you hate to download and listen to Time Pop. We'll take the numbers any way we can get them. Please check out soundsawesome9216.com. That's soundsawesome9216.com to see what else sounds awesome. If you would like to add to the discussion, please email us at timepop9216@gmail. That's timepop9216@gmail. And tell Tell us your thoughts about this particular depiction of time travel and how you might use it. And definitely let us know about a time travel movie, book, game, etc. that we might discuss on a future episode, especially if it is flawless, unlike the Afghan that Arya is sitting in front right now that's full of holes. And if you would like to start your own discussion on the topic, please head over to Face, Insta, Twitter book. We are at tpop9216. That is at tpop9216. And now back to the big finish. Thank you for joining us, Scott.
Oh my God. I love nerding out with you guys. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Love being in the studio.
This was amazing. I love it. Like a lot of episodes, around minute 40, we start to wind down, and then we one more thing into some really, really cool conversations. And this was absolutely a great version of that. Thank you, Ari. Thank you, Scott. I am Desmond McNeese.
I'm Ariel Galah.
This has been Time Pop. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, y'all. It's a freaking time travel movie.